Hi, I'm Madonna, and I'm just going to be demonstrating a clean, simple, easy to follow makeup look. And I'm using Biore charcoal cleanser. Any micellar water, anything is good to cleanse the face of any excess dirt on the skin before starting, because you want a clean canvas or any excess oils. And the charcoal is good for the oil on the skin. You're just going to use a cotton pad and cleanse. And you want to be a little gentle and not tug on your face either. Perfect. So, unless you're doing a really dark, smoky eye, or something that requires darker eyeshadows like dark colors like this, then you really don't need to worry about doing your foundation first or anything. You'll do the eyes first if you're using dark colors. Lighter colors, you can do your foundation first. It won't have as much fallout, but it's best to do the eyes first so you won't have, in case you have fallout, to clean up around it. And you can use the same micellar water, because it is a makeup remover as well, to clean around the eyes. I'm going to start with her skin. And for anyone's skin, you want to use a primer. So I'm just going to use a little primer. I'm going to just take my spatula, because hygiene is very important in makeup. You don't want to contaminate your makeup, because then your makeup will just go bad and it won't apply the same way. So you keep it as clean as possible for as long as possible. And you just want to stamp and press into the skin. Some primers are a little bit thicker, and that's why you really want to warm it up and work it into the skin and press it into the pores to fill it. So a pore filling primer is a good primer to use, because it does what it says. It reduces the pores and it smooths out the skin and helps to give you a nice even complexion. If you're somebody who suffers from dark pigmentation, so some people get dark pigmentation around the eyes or sometimes around the mouth, tends to look a little dark, you want to use something orange, a color corrector, something that has a warm orange tone. And I say orange because that's the only color that cancels and eliminates and neutralizes it. And when I say neutralize, I mean it's going to help. So when you put foundation over it that matches your complexion, which I'll show you how to match your foundation, you're gonna gently dab over it, and you're only using the orange over the areas that has dark pigmentation. So I'll just use a little to demonstrate on Leanne how you can do that. And you want to keep primer more in the T-zone area. So primers are just meant to, one, keep your makeup on longer. It helps to even out the skin tone. It helps to give you a smoother appearance. Some people have oily skin, so it's good to choose a primer that's best suited for your skin type. Most people in the Caribbean have oily T-zones, which is your forehead, down the nose. Sometimes it extends a little to the cheeks and the chin area. So these are all the places that I'm applying this primer, and I'm really going over it to make sure it's nice and blended as well. And you're going to get that nice stamping motion. Now I don't always support this, the use of this, but you can use milk of magnesia. And I say very lightly use milk of magnesia. I have it in a squeeze bottle so I can control the amount I use. And you're going to see how little I actually use. So 2 drops of that is all you're going to need. And I'm only putting enough on the nose, because people tend to sweat there a lot, and the center of the forehead, not all over the face, because you're going to look very white and it's going to dry very well and it's going to make your makeup even crack and move, and you don't want that. You literally put a little, and a lot of people get that wrong because they put too much. And a good thing to always practice, have a paper towel on hand to wipe the excess makeup off of the brush, so that you can really evenly spread this out, because you don't want too much, like I said. And I actually prefer to put primer down first before I use the milk of magnesia. It's just like an extra super barrier to keep your makeup on. The reason as well you only keep it in the T-zone is because it will dry out the rest of your face, because that's what it is used for. It's used typically for shows with harsh hot lighting to maintain the makeup so it wouldn't melt off the face. Right. Sometimes I just put 90% rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle and I spray the tissue to clean brushes in between, because you always want to have a nice clean brush when you're applying the makeup. So now I'm going to use some moisturizer, because the misconception about oilier skin tones or combination skin is that you can't moisturize it because you'll get greasy, and that's not true. All moisturizers have different components. If you look on the back of the ingredients, the first 3 or 5 ingredients listed is what is the most percentage of components in the ingredients. So this is a water-based one, which is really good for hydrating skin, and that's what you really want, especially for areas like under the eyes. Look up. And you want to just kind of really massage that in the under eye area. Not too much. But again, the skin under the eyes is actually very similar to the skin on your lips. So you ever notice if you don't drink enough water or wear lip balm or hydrate your lips, it's going to look really dry. That's what happens with your under eyes. You really want to give it a little extra hydration. Best not to use something that's oily or greasy, because it's just going to make your makeup slip, especially if you're somebody who may sweat easily or makeup just doesn't tend to sit on you very well. And I don't mind sometimes even gently just applying the moisturizer, whatever is left, all across the face. Because you still want your makeup application not to look dry and cakey. You want it to look like skin. And you notice the light movements. I'm not pressing on her skin. I'm feathering. So you really need to practice this wrist movement to feather lightly, and that's going to help you apply evenly any product you put on the skin and blend it really well. So controlling the wrist is really important, because you notice my hand not doing like a windshield wiper, it's my wrist that's really working the brush. Cool. So now I'm going to apply foundation. And the trick to finding your foundation shade,
which I always struggle with, let me tell you.
is that you're going to want to test out different shades and see which one works. And nothing wrong with mixing too if you can't, because sometimes I'm a makeup artist, I can't always own every single shade available for everybody. So, a good little trick if you're out foundation shopping, get a sample of every foundation shade that you think is closest to your complexion, and it's best to line them up the way that you did it. So this is the first one I used, this is the second one I used. This is the third one I'm trying. I think this is too dark. Right. So between these three shades I'm going to test. And the best way to test is you can either do it on the center of your chest, because as long as the foundation matches your body's complexion, then it's going to match you. Even if you think your face is too light or too dark, if it's too dark, you have to color correct your face before you put the foundation. And if it's too light, you still want to match it to your body. Because if you're wearing something sleeveless or exposed, and your arms and your chest is a lot darker, then you still want to match it to your body. Just bring it down to your neck a little bit if necessary. Okay, so I'm just going to test. So this one is a slightly darker tan shade, and you just want to observe and see if it really matches. Now Leanne has more of a yellow undertone or olive. How that one looks. So I'm going to go with the first tone, and I'll show you how to cheat a foundation if you feel like sometimes you might be more indoors, like for Corona, and your complexion might get lighter like mine did. I got way lighter than all the foundations I used to wear, and now I look like an Oompa Loompa and orange. So you're going to want to try and cheat it a little bit. So, because you want to economize on spending, you don't want to spend too much on a foundation. So I'm going to go with this one because it has more of an olivey yellow tone, and I'm just going to match that to her body. Usually Leanne is more tan, but she's at her lightest right now. This is her winter shade. Okay. And I'm going to also just show quickly how to color correct. So this tone here is kind of orangey. I don't know if you could see. It's a little orangey. It's not super bright. You can use a brighter orange if you are someone who has much darker tones, which she doesn't exactly. And you're going to want to use a very soft mic, like they call this a duo fiber brush, because as you can tell it has two different types of fibers in it. And it's very, very light and soft. And you're going to just spread that on the tip of the brush. And you see how I'm just spreading it because I don't want to apply too much, but just enough to get the job done. Look up. And I'm only applying it to the areas that I feel like she has any dark pigmentation, which she doesn't have a whole lot of. And you're just going to lightly and gently. And the reason is because remember the under eye area, the skin is a lot thinner there, so you don't want to pack too much product there either. I'm only putting as much as she needs. And this product that I'm using is actually waterproof. So you want something that's not going to be so creamy and easy to shift around that you can't blend and it won't settle or, you know, not move. Because if it's going to be moving and you have to put layers, and that's what makeup is all about, layering. You don't want to put concealer, foundation, and then it's just going to end up looking like a cakey mess. So you see how it's now very warm and orange there? You're just going to let that settle in a bit. I'm going to move on with the foundation now. I don't like applying too much foundation at once, so I evenly distribute it on the brush, and I start kind of spreading it. I start spreading it all over the face. So that I get a nice even distribution of product, and then I just blend. And blending is the most important part of foundation, because you don't want to see any demarcation lines, which means you don't want to see the foundation cutting at the jawline. You want to blend throughout because it needs to match and blend into the body. That's why I say it needs to match your skin tone. And I even take it just beyond here and into the air a little bit. You want to make sure it's super blended because you don't want makeup settling in creases or smile lines. And you can fold your lips in so you can get this area seamlessly. I like to blend into the lid like this and into the brow. So I like doing the brows last now. I used to do the brows first, but I find that when you do the brows last, it looks a little more natural, the result. And for the forehead, I actually don't like applying too much foundation. And I'll explain why. You still want to blend enough into the hairline so nothing looks out of place. If you notice, I'm going over some areas multiple times with a light hand as well, because you want to spread it. If you go and you press too hard, you see what it's doing? It's tugging on her skin, and you're not going to spread it as evenly, and you might even apply too much product in one area and make it concentrated. So you want to be gentle and light-handed and spread throughout. Right, so now I want to look up. You're going to pat the foundation over the areas that you would have color corrected. And the reason you're patting is because you don't want to make the product move from where you just applied it. You could gently just kind of brush over it, but you want to pat over it first to conceal it. And you see how it just literally starts to disappear? So her face is starting to look pretty even now. Her neck is a lot lighter, so I'm gonna just bring it down a little bit. I'm just gonna clean off what I put on her neck when I was testing these shades. But it matches her arms. Sometimes that does happen, but I always prefer to match it to the body, because especially when you're doing things like, well, it's not going to happen next year, but band launch season and carnival, and you see how much of the skin is exposed and the bodies are exposed, especially people who want to tan.
Yeah.
You want to bring it down a little bit so everything is a little bit more blended. I'm just putting a little bit more. Spreading it again. I'm only gonna bring it down just a little in the areas that are a little light, which is mainly like your upper neck area. You wanna just gently blend. You're not putting a lot either. And you need to keep into consideration what you're wearing. Is the outfit going over your head, or does it zip up? Because that's really important, or else you're just gonna find yourself in trouble. I've done that before.
What if it's a white shirt?
Yeah.
And then you have everything on makeup on
You
your
do your whole face. And then you realize, oh shoot. Right. So now we even. But now nobody's face is just one-dimensional. People's faces are actually three-dimensional. You have your light areas, your dark areas. So the light areas where the light naturally hits. And as you can see where the light hits in her cheekbones, you want to highlight those areas. We want to brighten the under eyes too. And the T-zone, because that's where light, natural light hits your face from above. We're indoors now, so you can't tell. So you want to bring those dimensions back to the face, and you want to contour the cheeks as well, just a little, or the areas that hollow out naturally on the face, because that's what contour is. So now I'm going to do concealer. And don't let brands confuse you with what highlighting, like concealing is, and brightening things. They're all concealer. Even contour liquids and powders and creams are all concealers, or foundation and just maybe a thicker form. So, because I said she has more of a yellow undertone, I'm going to use more of a yellow undertone concealer. See? And then I'm going to just lighten it a little bit with another concealer. I always mix between two concealers because I find I always get exactly the color I want. So I'm just going to mix it with a medium shade so we get a little touch of brightness. To apply concealer, again, I love using soft brushes. And you'll know it's soft because a dense brush just wouldn't move. And I like to mix between the two. I'm not like those people who will draw sweep, and lines all over the face with concealer. I prefer to work with a lighter hand, because if you put too much in anything in makeup, you can't erase it. So it's always best to start with less is more, and then just gently. And the reason I'm also using a soft brush is because you're not going to move product around that you just spent all this time laying down. And it's a lot gentler on the under eyes, because that's an area you don't want to tug on your skin and create pre-wrinkling or anything like that. So you can already see her face is starting to brighten up in these areas. dogs choose to bark and howl. And you want to bring it down a bit. So the face, the anatomy of a face could be really complex with makeup, because if you apply concealer the wrong way, you can make your face look longer. And if you apply it too much out, then you make your face look wider. It's a manipulation of light. So you just really want to keep it more concentrated, which I like to keep more concentrated in this area. And I don't extend past the cheek, which is the high point here. So literally you go in between these areas here. And I just take a little bit around the nose, because sometimes people have a little redness or darkness around the nose, to kind of center everything back. I'll put a little on the chin to create a little center. Down the nose. And then I kind of clean my brush a bit on a dry paper towel. I'm going to take this brush and just kind of seamlessly blend everything in. I want to go into the orbitals, just this inner corner here, and blend as well. And I'm pressing it in because I'm trying to get the makeup to really have some staying power in these areas. Patting it in as I blend. So already you can see her face is starting to take shape, and I'm just going to go back in the areas that I feel like she may have a little extra blemishes. And just patting over it. Now we're going to do contouring. And the best way to choose a contour shade, as you can tell, the concealer is not white and bright on her face because she's not white and bright. You want to choose a shade that complements your skin tone. So I don't ever tend to go 5 or 4 shades lighter than a person's natural skin tone. I'll go maybe 2 shades lighter. And the same for contour, you're going to go 2 shades darker, if so much, with keeping in mind your undertone. Everybody's undertones are different. So I said she has more of a yellow undertone, which is also warm, but it's not red. People with red undertones tend to have more melanin in the skin, which means they have darker skin tones. And more dark skin tones tends to have red undertones, or neutral, which means they have both red and they have both neutral, meaning like it has both tones in them. So you're not either or. And some people that have olive undertones, which you can have as well, olive looks almost yellow, but it has almost that earthier yellow to it. If you know what an olive looks like, keep that in mind and then make it yellow. And that's what the tone tends to look like. Because I have used yellow on people like that before and it just didn't look right. So you just have to play around with the tones, test on your chest, and then you'll figure it out. Maybe I didn't explain that the best, but I tried to explain it the best way for you to understand. So I may use this tone. Or this tone. I feel like they both can work. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with this tone. You see the color? It still has a nice warm tone to it, which means it's going to suit her really well as a contour shade. And I like using bronzier tones to contour with because I find cool contour tones looks muddy. And I find that's not very appealing. So, the hollow part of your cheek tends to follow from the tip of your ear to the tip of your mouth. But you're obviously not going to take your contour all the way there because you're just going to look like you're doing a fish face. So I like to start there and then stop, smile. You see where the apples of your cheek is where her cheek rounds out, you're going to stop at that point. Because if you go much lower, you're going to hollow out the person's face. And when I say hollow out, you're going to create shadow. And that will change a person's face completely and not in a very attractive way. So you want to do it in the best way that complements you or the person doing the makeup. I like to take it to the temples and the hairline because most of our sun exposure comes in those areas. And then just blend it out. I like taking it to the ear a little bit too because you want everything to look like it's supposed to be there. Just like you wouldn't leave your foundation right there and not blend it into your hairline because then it's going to look obvious. You want it to look natural, and it's ironic because makeup is a natural, but you want it to look that way. Seamless. And you notice I didn't put too much product either, and the reason is because, like I said, you put too much, you can't take it away. And you see how nice and you see how this side varies from this side? So you start to see more shape on this side. Now I'm going to do the same on the other side. Smile. And you're going to stop right there.
Somebody asked if you could recommend a nice and cheap makeup for everyone.
Nice and cheap makeup. Some of my friends who are makeup artists use LA Girl because they have a lot of tones. There's another one called Milani, and that sells at Wonderful World. They have nice bronzers as well too. Over the years, I ended up using these products because they just work best for me and all my clients, but I'm not against using drugstore. You just have to find the right one that suits you. Because not all drugstore is going to work just because it's cheap. You want something that's still going to work for you because everybody's skin is different or may react differently.
And in terms of cleaning your face before?
Micellar water or a cleansing wipe, a cleansing towel. Because just washing the face alone is only going to remove so much dirt. When you